الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. گزشتہ خطبے میں نے بیان کیا تھا کہ
In the last Friday sermon, I spoke with respect to the details of the apostates and the battles against the apostates. I said that those details had come to an end, with relating to Musaylama the liar and other false claimants to prophets. The rebellious factions, the apostates, who had raised arms against the government in the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr, their mention continues. As I said, there were many different expeditions that took place during this time. I have mentioned the previous expeditions in quite some detail. Now there are 10 remaining expeditions. I will present 2 or 3 Hazrat Huzaifa and Hazrat Al-Fajr. These expeditions took place through them, which was against the apostates of Oman. Oman is a place near to Bahrain. It is situated in the Arabian Peninsula and along the coast. And it also includes some of the eastern regions which were grouped together in that ancient place. The idolatrous tribes were present there. Muscat and Sohar and Davar, they were places that were also located in this place. In the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, Oman was counted amongst Iran, and a person named Jafar was appointed as the governor. One of the religions was also present there of the polytheists. In the 8th year after the migration, or Hijri, Hazrat Abu Zayd Ansari was sent for the purpose of the propagation of Islam, and Hazrat Amr bin As was also sent to 2 chief brothers, Jafar bin Julundeh and Abad bin Julundeh. A letter was sent to both of them. The summary of the letter of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, to these 2 brothers was, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the ever merciful. This letter is sent from Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, from Allah's servant and his messenger, to Jafar and Abad, to Bisran Julander. Peace be upon those who follow the path of guidance. I invite you to accept the religion of Islam. You should accept Islam and you will remain under protection. I am the messenger of Allah, and I have been sent to the entire world so that I could warn all those people who are yet alive, and I can seal the argument upon the disbelievers. If you accept Islam, I will keep you as the leaders, and if you reject accepting Islam, then we will take your authority from you. According to other narrations, after many days of discussions and deliberations, both these brothers accepted Islam. According to yet another narration, the leader of Oman, Jafar, had said, I have no reason to not accept Islam, but I fear that if I collect the zakat, the alms from here, and send it to Medina, the people of my city will turn away from me. Upon this, Hazrat Amr bin As said, the money that you collect from zakat here will be spent on the poor people of your city. Subsequently, hearing this, he accepted Islam. Hazrat Amr remained present there and living there for 2 years, and he would carry out tabligh or propagate the faith of Islam to there. Through his successful tabligh or propagation of Islam, the majority of people in this vicinity accepted the religion. When the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, passed away, and rebellion spread in all directions in the Arabian Peninsula, Hazrat Abu Bakr, through Hazrat Amr bin As, transferred him from Oman to Medina. On the other side, after the passing of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, Laqid bin Malik Azdi also raised his head. He was a Zoroastrian, and he was considered one of the leaders in Oman. Oman, Jurende was one of the names of the leaders of Oman. Anyhow, this individual claimed to be a prophet, and the ignorant people amongst Oman followed him, and therefore he established governance there, and Jafar and his brother had to seek protection in the mountains. Jafar informed Hazrat Abu Bakr of all these circumstances and requested Hazrat Abu Bakr for help. Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, sent 2 leaders to these brothers. Huzaifa bin Mesin al-Fani, Himyari, was sent to Oman, and Arfaja bin Harsama Barki Azdi to Bara, and he instructed them that they should both travel together and should initiate the war from Oman. Bahra was one of the names of the tribes of Yemen, and he instructed that when there is a battle that ensues in Yemen, Huzaifa will be the leader, and when there is a battle in Bahra, then Huzaifa will carry out the duties of being like a general. Hazrat Huzaifa and Hazrat Arfaja's introduction is as follows. In the history by Tabari, Hazrat Huzaifa's name is Huzaifa bin Mesin al-Fani, whereas in the book of the companions, his name is Huzaifa Galani. Until the demise of Hazrat Abu Bakr, he remained the leader of Oman. In the book about the life of the companions, Hazrat Arfaja's full name is Arfaja bin Huzaima. Allama ibn Asir has said that his father's name was Harsama, and he was well known for his schemes against the enemies. Hazrat Abu Bakr, to support both of them, Hazrat Ikramah bin Abu Jahl sent him for their help. Previously, in the Battle of Yamama, in the mention of Musaylama the liar, this has been mentioned when Hazrat Abu Bakr sent Hazrat Ikramah to challenge the rebellious factions. And Sharabil bin Hassana was also sent for the assistance. Then Ikramah was instructed that he should not attack until Sharabil arrives. However, Ikramah was hasty. He could not wait and he attacked. As a result, he had to suffer defeat. Upon this, Hazrat Abu Bakr became displeased and instead transferred him to Oman. Upon the instruction of Hazrat Abu Bakr, Ikramah with his army went towards Oman behind Arfaja and Huzaifa. Before they arrived in Oman, Ikramah arrived in Oman in a place called Rijam, and he met with both of them. And they went to Jafar and his brother, and they conveyed the message for which purpose they came. In some books of history, as in Kamil ibn Asir, the name is Ayaz has been mentioned as his name. Rija is a mountain in Oman. Anyhow, after the leaders of the Muslim army received the message, Jafar and Abad then came out of their residences or the places where they had been hiding after the claim and announcement of that claimant to prophethood who had formed the whole army, because he had amassed a large amount of soldiers. So they came out of the area of protection and they came and set up camp. Huzaifa, Arfaja and Ikramah said that all of you come to us. Sohal is also a mountainous region in Oman, and they had said to everybody to gather there. It is said that there was a festival that took place for 5 days that used to take part there in Oman, in this place. So all these people in the army gathered together and they purified it of the apostates. Laqid bin Malik there received notification that the Islamic army had come. He came with his own army to challenge the Muslim army, and in the place of Taba he was vanquished. To the women, children and others he put behind him so that he could get strength in the battle. Dababir was a city in there and was a trade center of the area. The Muslim leaders, with Laqid's chief allies, wrote them letters. Allies who were chiefs wrote them letters. And before this, they corresponded with the tribe of another place. In reply, the leaders replied to the Muslim leaders, and the consequence of this correspondence was that all of these leaders separated from Laqib and they joined with the Muslims instead. In this place, in the place of Daba, the army of Laqid came and had a ferocious army. First of all, Laqid's army had the upper hand, and it seemed impending that the Muslims would suffer defeat. However, Allah the Almighty then bestowed His favor, and in this very delicate predicament, He gave His support. Various tribes of the Bahrain and the Banu Abdul Qais factions also came for reinforcement, which strengthened the hand of the Muslims. They advanced forward, and they were able to penetrate with a powerful attack, and Laqid himself was severely injured. The Muslims pursued the retreating disbeliever army, and they ended the lives of 10,000 of them, and they captured the women and children. And they were able to capture the wealth, and this came in the hands of Arfaja, and he also sent some of it to Hazrat Abu Bakr. Similarly, in Oman, this disorder was also eliminated, and the Muslim governance was able to be established. After the battle, Huzaifa decided to remain in Oman, and he became engaged in establishing peace and reforming the area. Arfaja, as has been mentioned, he took the spoils of war and went to Medina. And Hazrat Ikramah, he took his army and went to Mahra and went there. Hazrat Ikramah, regarding his expeditions against the apostates, that Hazrat Abu Bakr gave a flag to Hazrat Ikramah and instructed him to confront Musaylima. Hazrat Abu Bakr sent Hazrat Ikramah to Yamama to challenge Musaylima, and Hazrat Sharabil bin Hassana was also sent to Yamama. Hazrat Abu Bakr sent both of them to Yamama, albeit he said to Ikramah that until Sharabil arrives, do not initiate your attack. However, Ikramah was hasty, as has been mentioned already. And before the arrival of Sharabil, he already sprung forward an attack. Musaylima therefore was able to defeat him, and when Sharabil bin Hassana received notification of this, he remained where he was. Hazrat Abu Bakr wrote to Sharabil and said, "Stay near to Yamama until you receive my second instruction." Hazrat Abu Bakr wrote to Hazrat Ikramah that now I will not see you. I have mentioned this account before, and nor will I listen to anything you have to say. However, after this, unless you carry out any extraordinary achievement, first show me some extraordinary feat of victory, then come to me. And he instructed him that go to Oman and fight the people of Oman, and go help Huzaifa and Arfaja. As has been mentioned, that Oman was part of the Arabian Peninsula, and also the various emirates that are in modern-day peninsula were part of that ancient Oman. And there were various tribes who were all idol worshippers or fire worshippers, and there were also various towns in that area. And he said, every single person will be a leader of his cavalry, albeit until you come under the leadership of the area which Huzaifa governs, he will be the leader of all of you. When you alleviate yourself of this task, go to Mahra, then go to Yemen, and then you become engaged in the activities of Yemen and Hadramaut and stay with Umayyah, and then between Oman and Yemen, those people who follow you, you can carry this out. And I shall keep on receiving news of your achievements in the battle. These were the instructions of Hazrat Abu Bakr. Anyhow, through the dispatch of Ikramah, according to the instruction of Hazrat Abu Bakr, Huzaifa bin Misan Irfani went to Oman, and Arfaja Barki went to Mahra, went to fight the apostates there. According to the instruction of Hazrat Abu Bakr, Ikramah went behind the armies of Huzaifa and Arfaja to support them. Before they reached Oman, Hazrat Ikramah joined forces with them. Before this, Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, had given the instruction to both of them that after you finish your duty in Oman, follow the opinion of Ikramah, whether you join with them or you instruct them to stay there. After this, as has been mentioned, when both of three of these leaders joined together in Oman, they came to Jafar and Abad and sent reinforcements. On the other side, when Laqid came to learn that the Islamic forces were arriving there, he reinforced his own forces and came to Ba and set up camp. Jafar and Abad also came out of the areas where they had been seeking protection. They came to Sahar and set up camp. Huzaifa, Arfaja and Ikramah he sent for them and said, all of you gather together here in one place. Consequently, as has been mentioned, they all came to the place of Sahar and gathered together, and they purified that area of any apostates. And finally, the reconciliation was the ultimate event. They also wrote letters to Laqid and the chiefs of those areas. To the Banu Judayd leader, they also reconciled. In reply, the leaders also wrote letters to the Muslims. As has been mentioned, all the leaders as a result separated themselves from Laqid. After this, with the army of Laqid, there was a fierce battle that ensued with the Muslim armies. I have mentioned the details of this battle previously. After this battle, Ikramah and Huzaifa, they were unanimous upon the mutual opinion that they should remain in Oman. And Huzaifa should stay there to establish peace and reconcile all the people and the different disagreements. And Ikramah came forward with another big army, and he then started from the place called Mahra. Hazrat Ikramah, regarding his battle, it is said that the apostates of Oman, after vanquishing them, Ikramah with his army went to a place called Najd in Mahra to the tribe there. It is written that the people of Oman and the people in the auxiliaries of Oman, he requested them for support and help, and he kept on traveling until he reached to the people of the tribe of Mahra. There the people of different tribes had gathered together. Ultimately, Ikramah to the Mahra tribe and to the other auxiliary and peripheral areas, he had vanquished them. They were separated onto two groups. One group was under the leader of a person called Sharqid, and the other group was in Najd under the tribe of the Banu Harith, another person who was their leader. So the whole of Mahra was all under this leader, apart from Sharqid and his people. Both of these leaders were opponents to one another within that area, and they would call the people of one another to each other. Amongst both these armies, both of them desired that their leaders should have the upper hand. This was the reason and for which Allah the Almighty supported the Muslims, and He strengthened their hand against the enemies and weakened the enemies as a result of this split. When Ikramah found Shakrid and saw him with a few soldiers or smaller numbers, he invited him and his people towards Islam, so that he was a Muslim before, and he asked him to revert to Islam and to not fight against the Muslims. So in this initial appeal, Shakrid accepted his invitation, and in this way Allah the Almighty weakened the other army. Then Ikramah went towards the other leader, and he also invited him to recant his disbelief and accept Islam. However, he had a large number of people behind him, and that large number of people put him in a misconception. Shakrid, as a result of him being a Muslim, Musabba, the other leader, became even more distant and arrogant. Ikramah also tried to reconcile with him and gave him an invitation, and Shakrid was with him, the other leader. Both of these people, Najd, started fighting with Musabba, and there the battle was even more fierce than the previous one. Allah the Almighty caused the disbelieving and apostate army to be vanquished, and the leader was eliminated. The Muslims pursued behind them, and a large number of them were killed, and many of them were also captured as prisoners of war. And amongst the spoils of war, 2,000 camels also came into the possession of the Muslims. Hadrat Ikramah distributed the spoils of war into 5 portions. Shakrid was given a portion, and a portion was given to Hadrat Abu Bakr, and 4/5 of the portion were distributed amongst the Muslims. In this way, the army of the Ikramah, as a result of their added weapon, armor, money, became even more strengthened. Hadrat Ikramah gathered all the people of that area, and all of them decided to accept Islam. Hadrat Ikramah gave this good news to Hadrat Abu Bakr through the vicinity of a messenger who he dispatched. Then Hadrat Ikramah was also sent to Yemen. Hadrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, in his letter, which I have already detailed in the past, had given guidance to Hadrat Ikramah that after Mahra go to Yemen, and in Yemen and Hadramaut, Hadrat Hajar bin Abu Umayyah stay with him in your engagements there. And between Oman and Yemen, those people who have accepted or not accepted decide accordingly. Hadrat Ikramah, therefore, upon this instruction of Hadrat Abu Bakr, left Mahra, and then he went towards Yemen. Ultimately, he reached a place called Abyan. Abyan is also a town in Yemen. There was a very large army with him, and the tribe of Mahra and also many other tribes were also a part of it. Hadrat Ikramah stayed the whole time in the south of Yemen, and there, a place called Nakha and Khamir, the people of those tribes, he remained engaged in dealing with them, and then he did not even have to go to the north of Yemen. Hadrat Ikramah, to the tribe of Nakha, after dealing with them, he gathered the people of this tribe and he asked them, "What is your view about the religion of Islam?" They responded that in the age of ignorance, we were also already people of religion. We also had an affinity to faith. We, amongst us Arabs in this area, did not fight one another. So imagine our state when we enter that religion through whose superiority we are aware of and whose love is already embedded in our hearts. In other words, the love of Islam has already entrenched our hearts. When Hadrat Ikramah researched about them or tried to find out, investigate, that are they saying this just to save their lives or do they really mean it, he discovered that they were in fact telling the truth. They in reality were saying what was correct. The people of that area remained steadfast upon Islam, but only a few people became apostates. In this way, Nakha and Hamir, Hadrat Ikramah was able to purify it of the apostasy and to reinforce them remain there. In Abyan, Hadrat Ikramah and Aswad Ansi there was a deep impact upon their community. Qais bin Makshu was the leader of theirs, and Amr bin Mahdi were also present there. After fleeing from Sana'a, Qais used to travel between to and fro of Sana'a, and Amr bin Mahdi, Karib, was amongst the party of Amr bin Asdi. And when Hazrat Ikramah reached to another place, Qais and Amr bin Mahdi, Karib, gathered together to battle him. However, they rapidly disagreed with one another, and they started separating with one another. And in this way, Hazrat Ikramah, from him coming to the east, was unable to eliminate many communities of the apostates. Alongside Yemen, the tribe of Kinda was also there, which was in the place of Hazrat Maut. The leader of that place was Hazrat Ziya bin Labid. Regarding zakat, he was quite harsh, so people became rebellious against him. So therefore, Hazrat Ikramah and Hazrat Mahajir bin Abu Umayyah, both of them went there to try and help him. Details of this have already been mentioned with relation to Hazrat Mahajir bin Umayyah. Anyhow, when Hazrat Ikramah, after dealing with the apostates, started preparing to go to Medina, Nu'man bin John's daughter was also present. He married him in the field of battle, albeit he was aware that before this Tamim and Mujah's daughter, as a result of marrying them, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, was also very displeased with Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, and I've mentioned the details of this in the previous Friday's sermons. Despite this, he decided to go on with the marriage, that is Hazrat Ikramah. Upon this, many soldiers of Hazrat Ikramah's army separated from him. Now this matter was presented before Hazrat Mahajir. However, he was unable to come to any conclusion or verdict. So therefore, all these circumstances were then written to Hazrat Abu Bakr to get his guidance. Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, then directed that Ikramah did not do anything wrong by marrying in this circumstance. Those people who were displeased or who were enraged, because according to some people were reassured and they calmed down. However, the background of some people's anger was that some people were anger with Hazrat Ikramah was because Nu'man bin John once came before the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and requested that the Holy Prophet accept his daughter as his wife. But the Holy Prophet rejected this and sent back his daughter alongside her father. Because the Holy Prophet had rejected this daughter, this is why it was the belief of one faction of Hazrat Ikramah's army that, following the blessed example of the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Ikramah also should not have married this woman. However, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq did not accept this argument. He said this is entirely erroneous, and the marriage of Hazrat Ikramah he deemed permissible. Hazrat Ikramah, along with his wife, came back to Medina, and that part of the battle that had become angry and had separated rejoined with him. Asma bint Nu'man bin John has been mentioned. Her brief introduction is that Hazrat Ikramah, the lady that he had married, in Bukhari and various books of hadith, we find narrations regarding her. This woman's nikah or marriage announcement had a nikah with the Holy Prophet, but however she carried out such an act that the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, sent this woman back to her tribe. There is a lot of discrepancies in the narrations regard. Some people say that she married Hazrat Mahajir bin Abi Umayyah. Anyhow, mentions of this account, Hazrat Muslih Maud, second Caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, has detailed it as follows: that when the Arab lands were conquered and Islam started spreading far and wide. A woman of the Kinda tribe, whose name was Asma or Yumema, and she was Jonia, or also called Binte John, her brothers Luqman, came before the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, as a representative of their people. On this occasion, he also expressed a desire that his sister's marriage should be done at the hands of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, or with the Holy Prophet. And he also requested the Holy Prophet that my sister, who was already married to one of her relatives but is now widowed, is very beautiful and very capable, you should marry her. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, because was in the view of unifying the Arab lands, accepted this invitation and said, upon 12.5 weight of gold or silver, the dowry will be established. The brother said that we are respectable people, the dowry should be more. And the Holy Prophet said, I have not given a higher dowry to any of my other wives. When the brother was satisfied, the nikah, the marriage announcement, was completed. And he requested the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that send somebody and call for your wife. The Holy Prophet sent Abu Usaid for this purpose. He went there, Jonia, called them to his house. Then Hadhr Abu Usaid said, the Holy Prophet, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him's wives, the hijab, the covering, has been compulsory. Upon this, she asked for the different instructions, which he informed. She was placed on the camel and brought to Medina, and in a house around which were date palms was brought and dismounted. There was also a helper who came, and the Holy Mother Muslim Maud, the second caliph, said, just like the rich people of our places also sent a servant so that no discomfort is given to the girl. This girl was known as beautiful, and there are people who try to look in the wrong way. There were women of Medina who came. Some woman taught her that you should try to establish your aura on the first day. When the Holy Prophet comes to you, you should say, I seek Allah's protection from you. He will become even more awe-inspired by you. If this is not the case, that is the one who is getting married, there is no surprise. Hadhr Muslim writes that there is no surprise that some hypocrite, through some relative or the other, probably would have actually carried out some scheme in this way to say this sentence. So when the Holy Prophet learnt of her arrival, he then went towards that house, which had been assigned for her to stay in. It is narrated in the hadith, the traditions of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, the translation of which is, when the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, came to her, she said to him, you should... Is even the queen given to normal people? God forbid. She considered herself very huge, big, or superior. Abu Usaid said, upon this, the Holy Prophet, upon this thinking that perhaps she is anxious, put his hand upon her to try and reassure her. He had only put his hand upon her when she said this very inappropriate sentence, that I seek Allah's protection from you. Because the messenger, hearing the name of Allah, is filled with honor and becomes embroiled in his honor of Allah. He replied, you have given the name of the most superior being and sought his protection, who is the one who gives the most protection, and therefore I accept your request. And the Holy Prophet immediately came out and said, O Abu Usaid, gave her 2 cloaks and sent her back to her home. After this, apart from the dowry, the Holy Prophet, as a favor, even gave further items of wealth and clothing and instructed to give it to her, some special type of clothes which were very exquisite, so that the instruction of the Holy Quran, وَلَا تَنْسَبُوا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, could be acted upon, which is regarding women of this nature who are given divorce without actually any connection being formed. Abu Usaid then traveled with that woman back home. The tribe in question was shocked, and they said, "What happened?" And she kept on replying that this is my great misfortune. And she even said the following, that I was incited, I was given the wrong advice, and I was told that when the Holy Prophet comes, you should display a kind of abhorrence, and in this way you will be able to gain upper hand over him. Whether this was the reason or otherwise, who knows, but she did express some abhorrence, and the Holy Prophet ultimately separated from her and sent her back home. I have mentioned this before as well with relation to a companion, Hazrat Abu Usaid. In any case, Hazrat Ikramah, Ginda, and Hadramaut, he returned from these places, and when he arrived in Medina, Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, directed him that Khalid bin Sa'id, for his help you should be dispatched. Hazrat Ikramah, with his army, who partook with him in the battle against the apostates, had given them holiday. Hazrat Abu Bakr in replacement prepared another army, meaning that they had been exhausted, they had carried out a massive expedition and given them time off. So Hazrat Abu Bakr prepared another army and instructed that under the flag of Hazrat Ikramah head off towards Syria. There Hazrat Ikramah, the amazing feats that he accomplished with great bravery and valor, the victories he was able to achieve, the details of this, inshallah, God willing, with relation to the expeditions of Syria, I will present. Then the fifth expedition, Hazrat Sharabil bin Hassana, with relation against the apostates. Hazrat Abu Bakr sent him to the places of Yamama, and he sent Sharabil bin Hassana also towards Yamama along with Hazrat Ikramah. Hazrat Sharabil bin Hassana's introductions briefly is Hazrat Sharabil bin Hassana's father's name was Abdullah bin Muta'at and his mother's name was Hassana. Some people have said Kindi and others have called him Tamimi. Sharabil's father in his childhood passed away, and he then was known as Sharabil bin Hassana on account of his mother's name. Hazrat Sharabil bin Hassana was amongst the pioneer converts to Islam. Along with his brothers in Habasha, that is modern-day Ethiopia, Eritrea, that is when he came back from this place in Abyssinia, then he stayed in the places of Banu Zurek. In the period of Khulafai Rashidin, the rightly guided caliphs, he was known as one of the great soldiers. In the 18th year after the migration, he passed away as a result of a pandemic or epidemic. As has been mentioned already, that Ikramah, despite the instruction of Hazrat Abu Bakr that wait for the arrival of Hazrat Sharabil, do not launch an attack until then, he carried out haste, and before the arrival of Hazrat Sharabil, he sprung an attack upon Musaylama so that he could get the credit for the victory. Albeit, Musaylama was able to push them back, and when Hazrat Ikramah gave this news of failure to Hazrat Abu Bakr, as I have mentioned before, Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, gave him a stern letter, or sent him a stern letter, and said, "Do not return with the stain of failure to Medina, because it may create cowardice amongst the people," and instead he instructed him to go to Oman. Hazrat Sharabil bin Hassana was en route when Hazrat Ikramah's news of defeat arrived, and he sent a letter to get more instructions. That is Hazrat Sharabil. Hazrat Abu Bakr instructed him to stay where he was. Hazrat Abu Bakr wrote to Hazrat Sharabil that near to Yamama you should remain. Ultimately, wait for my second instruction. And the person for whom I have sent you to defeat, Musaylama, do not confront him yet. When Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, sent Hazrat Khalid bin Walid for the expedition to Yamama, Hazrat Sharabil bin Hassana was given the instruction, when Hazrat Khalid bin Walid joins forces with you and you complete your mission in Yamama, then the tribe of Gaza go towards them, and Hazrat Amr bin As join forces with him, and then find out information about the apostates in that area who reject against Islam and who are not those who just reject Islam or reject the Khilafat, but also fight against them. Badar was also a famous tribe of the Arabs, which is about 10 days' travel from Medina, and further there is Madain in the west. And anyhow, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, upon his instruction, Hazrat Sharabil, along with his army, stayed there. Musaylama then finally came there, and mentioning this, a writer has said that Hazrat Khalid bin Walid was en route to Yamama when the forces of Musaylama then challenged the forces of Sharabil and then pursued behind him. Some writers say that Hazrat Sharabil made the same error that was made previously by Hazrat Ikramah, who had not waited. That is, that he also wanted to get the credit of defeating Musaylama, and Sharabil also went forward, but he also suffered defeat and had to retreat. Albeit this is not the correct account. What happened is that the armies of Yamama themselves, thinking that Hazrat Sharabil may join forces with Khalid bin Walid, came forward and attacked the Muslim army, that is the armies of Musaylama. And they defeated him, and they became successful in pushing the Muslim forces back. Now, there might be some truth in both accounts, but the fact is, whatever happened, Hazrat Sharabil had to retreat. When they reached Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, and they informed all the circumstances to him, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid then told of Hazrat Sharabil and said, if you do not have the full strength to fight the enemy, then it is absolutely right to stop fighting until you get reinforcements, and then you spring an attack. Instead of, despite not having the correct strength, you start fighting the stronger army and you have to suffer defeat. Anyhow, Hazrat Sharabil alongside Hazrat Khalid bin Walid remained engaged in battle. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid to Hazrat Sharabil made him in charge of the front advanced part of the column of the army, and upon the wings of the ranks of the army, Hazrat Abu Uzaifa and others were made in charge of the wings of the army. After completing the mission in Yamama, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, upon his instruction, Hazrat Sharabil went to the apostates of Banu Qaza, or to get reconnaissance information, and he joined with Hazrat Amr bin As. So it is written in history that Hazrat Sharabil and Hazrat Amr bin As, to the apostates of Qaza, started fighting against them. Hazrat Amr bin As, to the tribe of Saad and Bakh, they started fighting them, and Hazrat Sharabil to the tribe of Kalb and to the auxiliary tribes around the area fought them. The sixth expedition or battle was against the apostates of Hazrat Amr bin As. Hazrat Abu Bakr gave a flag to Hazrat Amr bin As, and to three tribes, Qadha, Wadiya and Haris, he sent him to fight those apostates. Qadha is also a famous tribe in the Arab lands, which is 10 nights of travel from Medina, and then in the west further is Madain. Hazrat Amr bin As's brief introduction is, his name was Amr and his filial appellation was Amr or Abdullah or Abu Muhammad, and his father's name was As bin Wail, and his mother's name was Nabiga bint Harmala. According to one narration, his mother's real name was Salma. Nabiga was perhaps a name that was given to them. Had Amr bin Has in the 8th year after the migration, after the conquest of Makkah, or 6 months before the conquest of Makkah, accepted Islam. The Holy Prophet in the 8th year Hijri, or after migration, appointed him as a governor of Oman. And until the demise of the Holy Prophet, he remained upon this position. After this, he remained engaged in the conquests of Syria and its victory, and in the tenure of the Caliphate of Hazrat Abu Bakr, remained the governor of Palestine. One amazing feat that he accomplished amongst his many accomplishments was also the conquest of Egypt. After the victory of Egypt, Hazrat Umar made him the governor of Egypt. During the tenure of the Caliphate of Hazrat Usman, he was transferred from the governor of Egypt, and then he came to Palestine. Amir Muawiyah then once again made him the governor of Egypt, and until he passed away, he remained in this position. It is said that he passed away in the 48th year after the migration, and some say the 47th, some say the 51st year after the migration. But anyhow, some people say in the 53rd year of the migration, which is often considered the more accurate version of his demise. Hazrat Amr bin As was also a great orator with exquisite speech, who spoke beautifully. He was a great politician and soldier, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ had great trust upon him in various battles and expeditions. Hazrat Amr bin As, his son Abdullah, and Abdullah were considered one of the best families. One writer has written that Hazrat Abu Bakr, when he prepared 11 flags, one of this was also prepared for Amr bin As. He was sent to fight the apostates of Qadha, because they, in the life of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him as well, had fought with certain battles in this area, and he knew the roots of this area, and he was familiar with the way of warring in battle. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, to Hazrat Amr bin As in Zulhajjah in the 9th year after the migration, to Jafar and Abad, Bisran and Julandair, sent to them to a letter of preaching. This was a very successful expedition, and the people of Oman, at the hands of Hazrat Amr bin As, accepted Islam. The Holy Prophet, by way of expressing great happiness, kept him in Oman to collect the zakat, or the alms. He was still present in Oman when through the letter of Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, he came to know the demise of the Holy Prophet. After the demise of the Holy Prophet, the majority of the Arab clans became apostates. To try and reconcile this, he transferred him from Oman. As a result of the instruction of Hazrat Amr bin As, he came back to Medina. When the apostasy and rebellion, to try and suppress it, he appointed he made 11 flags or leaders. He gave the instruction to Hazrat Sharabil that when you complete your mission from Yamama successfully, then go to the tribe of Gaza and head towards them. And alongside Hazrat Amr bin As, try to find more information about these rebels and apostates who reject Islam and who are engaged in its opposition. Subsequently, Hazrat Amr bin As and Hazrat Sharabil, both of them together, went towards the tribes of the Gaza and apostates, and he carried out expeditions against them and sprung surprise attacks against them. One writer said that the Banu Gaza, they did not want to happily accept Islam. In fact, the peripheral tribes, they out of fear, had accepted Islam initially. Their hearts were actually void of any love of Islam. As a result, after the demise of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, when they thought that the Muslims were now weak, they rejected giving any zakat, or the alms. From the court of Khilafat, the instruction was given, and Hazrat Amr bin As, from that same route which he had previously went before, there he arrived, and he saw that the people of the Banu Gaza were fully laced for battle. A battle ensued, and it was a fierce and furious battle, and like before, the people of the Gaza had to suffer defeat. Hazrat Amr bin As took the zakat from them, from the alms. He once again was unable to bring them back into Islam and gloriously returned to Medina. Now, with regards to the further expeditions, inshallah, God willing, I will mention them in future sermons.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر.
بعالم عيبتي